if a Cardassian freighter called the Bot Nor is docked at your space station, then you're in the right place because you're listening to Audio Hoo-Mons, the preeminent Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast. I'm your host, Alex, with my erstwhile Cardassian companion,
Brian,
who's not really a Cardassian, but every week we get together.
I'm more of a pencil neck than a snake neck.
That's a good point. He is. We get together every week. Brian, being the guy who didn't really watch all of DS9 when it was first run, and Alex, me, being the guy who did. And now it's like a new guy watching it with the guy who's seen it a million times. And what we like to do for you is compare notes and talk about each episode and how it relates to us, our worldview, and how it potentially and perhaps shaped our respective worldviews. Absolutely. And the way we look at things today. It's pretty interesting when you can talk about a show that was produced 25 plus years ago and it has a relativity, if you'll pardon that.
Right, it resonates today, yeah.
And a resonation with what's going on today. So today we're going to be talking about not one episode, but two. We're going to be talking about the Maquis episodes 1 and 2. That's a two-parter, obviously, in the second season, late in the second season of Deep Space Nine. And I'm going to tell you something before we get into that really quickly. Thank you to all of you who voted for us in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. By the time you're hearing this, it just slammed shut on doing the voting, so we hope that all of our different proddings and pokings was not pissing you off.
In vain, in vain, yeah.
How's that alliteration? Proddings, pokings, pissing. We hope it didn't piss you off because we just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to vote for us. So many of you tell us all the time that we're your favorite or one of your favorite DS9 shows, and we just, we do this out of love, and your way of showing love, it's an easy way to do it, is to vote. So we hope you did vote. I want to thank some people real quick. Jordan Britt,
yes,
guy on Twitter, he's like, I'm going to amplify the signal for my favorite pod. I'm not reading it directly, but he did that. He retweeted it, and of course,
Finney.
Did you do that? Was that you?
It's Star Trek magic.
Every time we see Finney. Okay, I'm not going to say it again because we got to get on with this. We got 2 episodes to cover, one here. But thank you to them, all of you though, who liked and posted and shared it with other people. That means so much to us because again, I'm not going to go through the whole list of why we do this, but just say this: labor of love, and we enjoy talking to other Trekkers. That said, this is kind of a roller coaster intro, isn't it? Brian's like, damn, he's just moving. That said, we've got something special for you in the middle of the show. Hang around. One of our listeners, no, and it wasn't Finney, dropped us a line. Chris recorded her favorite Star Trek episodes for DS9, and they are some thoughtful, wonderful choices, and we're going to talk about that in the middle of the show. We're going to do a roll of that real quick, but unless there's anything else...
Tranya.
Okay, what you got, my man? What you got?
So I actually, next week I will be trekking up to the northern woods in northern Wisconsin.
Is that the Finger Lake regions or somewhere else? It's not the Finger Lakes.
In honor of that, I've got some Leinenkugels, which used to be regional only because it was not pasteurized, so high heat pasteurized. But now it has national distribution. So
we drink it.
So give it a try. This is the summer shandy.
It's my wife's favorite.
I'm not a huge fan of shandies in general.
Right.
If you have to add some kind of fruit peels to your beer, it's not really beer.
You sound like
anymore.
Miles O'Brien, my friend.
But it is tasty. It's nice and cold on a summer July day.
Very nice. Well, and I hope you have a good time. I guess that means we're not having an episode the following week after this one, or
I will actually get back on the weekend, so we may be able to get one in.
Okay, if for some reason there's you get a little note going, this is just Alex. We didn't get to it, but I just wanted to make sure you knew we weren't cutting you out. We'll be back. We should, but
we should. Worst case, we'll do a mini
a red alert.
Yeah,
I'd love to call those something besides red alerts.
How about a non-episodic episode?
Oh, that's a really catchy thing. No, I wanted to do but it was called. I wanted to do a supplemental, but there's several podcasts do because of Captain's Log supplemental. but I didn't want to do that. So I thought red alert would be a way to like get your attention and also just say, okay, this is unusual. So you know what, it works.
But it's not an emergency though.
I think if we ever have an emergency, I don't even know how we would delineate an emergency. But frankly, there should not be a Star Trek related emergency that involves your real life. So it is
probably right.
Okay. Well, this is good, and I hope you have a really great vacation.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking a martini, and that's probably why I'm moving so quickly. I'm just trying. As soon as we get done with this, I have to go and cook dinner and do all sorts of stuff, but I'm not rushing. I'm just excited. So the Maquis, Part 1.
I don't want to go scene by scene, obviously. I think this is one that many people have seen. It's highly respected episode, but there were certainly some standout moments for me that I wanted to discuss and get your input.
Well, I mean, just basically these two episodes introduce a new dynamic in the series where some Federation citizens are breaking away because what's happened basically is due to treaty negotiations, which happens. A lot of Federation colonies that were in Federation space or Federation controlled space are basically flipped and traded to Cardassian in exchange for some vice versa, right? But that leaves a lot of Federation dudes and dudettes going, what the hell, man?
Right. And so they had the option to relocate back into Federation space, but many had spent their lives doing whatever it was on those
along the Cardassian border and the DMZ, and so they're like, I don't think so. So that brings Cal Hudson, an old pal of Lieutenant Commander Cal Hudson, who's an old pal of Ben's.
Yes,
and I think they'd both lost their wives,
and went graduated from the academy together.
Right, and they're catching up a little bit, and so Cal's job is the DMZ basically, and being the liaison from the Federation and trying to keep everybody happy. And that's where we run into the situation. And since we don't do it page by page and scene by scene, should I just encapsulate it and then we'll talk?
Yeah, but let me back up.
Oh,
first,
okay.
Because two things about the first couple scenes.
Mm-hmm.
First, the amount of kind of xenophobia between Kira and Jadzia there at the beginning when she's talking about her dating a guy with a transparent Scott. That one, and then she throws in some snide comment about dating Ferengi as well. So it's I don't know. I was kind of put off a bit by those kind of comments. I would hope that in a couple hundred years we'd get a little bit better.
It's funny because if it had been now, remember, these are not humans. This is a Bajoran,
right,
and a Trill,
yes,
making these comments to each other. But it's actually the Bajoran who's making the racially tinged comments.
Yes,
it's not the Trill. So the Bajorans, but see, I can forgive this because the Bajorans, I think, are very much on the frontier and have not had a huge amount of experience with alien races. They're not anywhere near as evolved in that sense as humans, because humans have been part of the Federation. Remember, Bajor's not part of the Federation. Part of the whole thesis of this show is that Bajor's on the frontier, and they were kind of like the whole reason they're even on the radar of the Federation is because they're a thorn in the side of the Cardassians until, as you know, in the events of Emissary, the wormhole opens, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, they are now the most strategic location in the entire Alpha Quadrant.
Right.
So you got to think of it that way, but you can understand it from that perspective. I think that as a civilization, they're not backward, certainly.
But does she evolve over time?
She does, but I think she does because we all know she becomes very intimate with an alien who is very unusual. So, and not without but I think you're right. I think it's funny banter though, and were you and I in that future, I don't think I could date Captain Baudet.
Agreed.
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't look at your brains while I'm eating.
I would probably be challenged as well. I just I don't know. For me, that was a little bit of a uncharacteristic.
To you, did it take away from your enjoyment of the show, or I found it enhanced it because I just thought it was funny as hell.
I don't know. I think I'm just maybe it's my pseudo wokeness, or I'm starting. I'm just trying. I am very sensitive to those types of conversations.
There's nothing wrong with
that. And you also put this in the perspective of this was also 25 years ago, which things were a bit different then, and so we're passing along this time continuum and trying to get better over time. So
pseudo wokeness, I like that term, by the way. But unfortunately, it makes it seem like you're not sincere. But I know that's not true. You are sincere.
I am sincere.
Anyway,
we digress.
We digress, but that's what the whole point is, right? I mean, So I guess what we're saying is, so back to your point about these two lovely, incredible, smart people of the 24th century from different planets. I still think it's hilarious.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And again, I'm just trying to be aware.
You do know this is a running joke.
It's funny today.
Oh, I think it's...
yeah.
Captain Baudet is a running joke in the whole series. We never saw him, thank God. They never produced him, because that would have killed it.
Right.
It's more funny in your head, right? Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
To not see his transparent
skull. I envision the Mars attacks.
Yes, you too. I envision that too. That's how I think Captain Baudet looks. That's exactly how I think he looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really funny, you and me. There we go.
Expert conversationalist, but
yeah. Apparently he's super charming though.
Yeah, okay, so that was one early on. The second was, are Starfleet uniforms really easy to access? I would think that would be kind of tough to get a hold of.
Wait, what does that mean? Access what?
If someone wanted to get a convincing Starfleet uniform,
I thought you meant access something through the uniform.
How many Starfleet officer or employees are on Deep Space Nine?
Okay, a replicator can do anything, dude.
But let's say there's less than 100.
There's less than 100 probably. Now remember, DS9 can hold what? Can DS9 hold like 10,000 people or something like that? I don't remember. It's big.
It seems a bit smaller, but
well, remember the USS Enterprise under Picard can hold 1,200 people. So think about that.
Okay. All right. So, but for me, it just seemed I know everyone that I work with. If someone came in pretending to be an employee at the place at which I worked
to plant a bomb,
catch it. Yeah, I would catch it immediately.
I'm not going to buy.
I don't recognize you. I'm going to check your credentials before I let you relieve me of duty.
I always let everybody. I check everybody who wants to relieve me. I'm just telling you straight up. No, I don't. See, I don't buy that. No, because this is interesting. You who are in the military. So did you know, even on a small base, would you have known every private and corporal who walked past you? Would you have paid attention? Would you have cared?
If someone in my unit, I knew everyone for sure.
I'm not buying this. You and I will disagree on this part.
If someone came to my office and said, "Hey, I work in your office. I want you to leave your desk. I'm going to come work at your desk for a while. You've got the rest of the day off." I would question that. Beyond just getting up and walking away.
I didn't know that happened. When did I just thought somebody went down to a thing and by the docking ring and
oh, that's right. It was later on in the episode where someone got relieved and they when they kidnapped Ducat. That's right. So that was later on. So he was just wandering around in a Starfleet outfit.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think, frankly, if you go to any con, you'll see that you can easily get a Starfleet outfit. They never fit well.
Oh. It's a simplicity pattern.
Oh, my God. Well, that's what gets me about that, fans. It's like, if it's a pattern and you're making it yourself, just measure yourself.
Measure twice, cut once.
There you go. I tell you, off the rack does not work with a Trek uniform anywhere.
True,
it just doesn't. And I'm talking as a guy who's cosplayed as Kirk myself before. I did that in Las Vegas at the Star Trek Experience.
My Picard outfit.
You do, and you look good. Yours fits you. I wore a Kirk, but I only shirt I could get that looked really good from the Kirk from the original series. And I was at the Star Trek Experience. I bought one there, but it was a double XL. Now I'm not a tiny guy by any means, But even then, when I was I was a little paunchy. Even I still swam in it. And I wore it with black pants. I just put it on over my shirt to sit down with my friends. I had people pulling me up asking me to take pictures with them because they thought I worked there. By the way, when we do our episode about Star Trek: The Experience, I'll have to tell that whole story.
Oh my God!
Anyway, I'm sorry. Please go ahead. This is supposed to be a tight episode.
So here's number 3, which is of all the elements that they could have used to create an implosion device that was not detected, they chose the one element, mercasium, that is exclusively known of and used by Starfleet.
You are really picking nits today.
It just did. If I was going to blow something up,
you'd eat a lot of Mexican food. I know. I've been in a car with you.
You choose something that wouldn't be easily traceable back to.
That makes it sound well. I don't. You make it sound like there's obvious ingredients to a bomb that are not traceable, and they just obstinately chose ones that were. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe they just use what they can use. And as it turns out, it's the Maquis. These are homegrown terrorists. They don't have access to everything. Although you wonder with the replicator if you couldn't just replicate.
I would think there'd be some sort of restrictions that you can't replicate.
That's true. Well, it's kind of like now. You can go buy a lot of the ingredients for the type of bomb with fertilizer that will take down a building.
They track
and they know yeah. So okay, fine.
So those were the things that kind of bothered me there at first, and they blow up the ship, and then the investigation starts, and it takes Miles a while, and Dax is all involved in figuring out that it's an implosion device. It's got mercasium, which has the trademarks of Starfleet all over it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's fair.
So that was.
It's Federation citizens. Some of them could have been former Starfleet, probably were. And then you got a Vulcan who's interacting with Quark Sakana. Sakana?
Quark's got the serious hots for her.
Well, so do I. She's gorgeous.
She was. Yeah.
I mean, she is probably, in my opinion, second only to T'Pol from Enterprise as the most attractive, interesting Vulcan in the series. I found her to be lovely and interesting. Did you not? Or?
I did. I mean, and that was another one where what logic could justify the type of stuff that she had gotten herself into. That seemed a bit of a stretch for a pure Vulcan, raised Vulcan.
I think too much is given to this whole. There's levels, because as you know in Star Trek: The Motion Pictures, Spock went in for the Colinar, which would have been the whole pure Vulcan logic.
Colonoscopy. Yes.
Well, that too. Probably equally as comfortable. It's out in the desert. No, but I mean, the Colinar is the discipline where you totally banish emotion from you. Now, you got to understand, this is the common I'm not saying you're doing this, but there's a common misconception among Star Trek fans or even casual observers that Vulcans have no emotion, which is not true. Vulcans have every emotion you and I do. They subsume their emotions. They control their emotions because they were such a violent race, a la the Romulans millennia ago, that they realized if they did not learn to govern their passions better, they would go extinct. So what you have now are a lot of Vulcans. On the one end of the spectrum, you probably have your average Joe Vulcan, probably like Sakana, who maintains the facade of the Vulcan who doesn't portray emotion. But is warring with those emotional things. Then you have at the far end, you have where Spock wanted to go. Now, if Spock didn't get there, V'ger and Kirk pulled him out of that, where he was going to achieve the Colinar, which would have basically banished all emotions, which is like, it saved Spock's life, I think, that he didn't get that, by the way, not to go off on that. But
sure.
It may be one of our episodes we talk about towards the end of the year when we have nothing else to talk about as far as episodes, because, I mean, being the 40th anniversary as of December 7th, 2019, of the motion picture, I'm wondering, brother, if we shouldn't have an episode centered
That
around.
would be, that might be.
And
I
don't think you've even seen that.
One.
Have you seen Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
Yes.
When was the last time you saw it?
Yes. Oh, it's been a long time since the last time.
Have you seen the director's edition?
I saw it on Laserdisc.
Wow. Did you stay awake?
I did.
Okay.
I did. It's period pieces. It's stuff set in the, the late 19th century. That's the stuff that puts me to sleep.
Oh, I was going to say, no, this isn't a period. Oh, I see what you're saying. So
that's what puts me to sleep.
You don't want to watch. You don't want to watch Barry Lyndon with me, is what you're saying.
Or Somewhere in Time. That's the one that
with Christopher Reeve.
It almost cost me my marriage.
Oh my God.
Not that bad. It's just I wanted so badly to watch that show because my wife loves that show.
It's a good movie.
Richard, I could not get through it. I fall asleep every damn time.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, all right. All right. Well, we'll need to make a note to watch the motion picture because, and maybe that'll be an episode that will drop on December 7th, as a matter of fact, because that's the 40th anniversary. They've announced that they may make a 4K version and they're going to restore it and there's a tortured history, and I'd be happy to take the lead on that episode because to be honest with you, I'm sorry, we're taking a little diversion here. Star Trek Motion Picture is, in many ways, my favorite Star Trek film. It's not the best one, but it's my favorite in the way that it's the only A-list motion picture Star Trek has ever made. The rest of them have been kind of B movies, even Wrath of Khan, with budget and what they did. They've been basically glorified TV. They've been shown in theaters. Star Trek: The Motion Picture was an attempt to make it on the same level as something Kubrick had done, and to a degree they were successful. But that is for another day. Okay. So
Quark's in love with the Vulcan.
Quarky's in love.
Yeah, and so he introduces her to the rules of acquisition. He's trying to learn how to interact with the Vulcans, and so there's some very interesting kind of play there where he's like, the rules of acquisition are just logic for the Ferengi.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that before. Did you make that up?
Yeah. Well,
the rules of acquisition are logic for Ferengi.
Yeah. So it's how to do business, and that's what Sakona was. I think she recognized that as well.
And she was basically saying, oh, if I have to go to dinner with you to make this happen, and I have to consume a certain amount of alcohol to make the deal, I will do it.
Exactly. It's all part of.
She is more enlightened than Kira and Dax at the beginning that you're so upset about.
Yes. Maybe, yeah.
Because she's accepting Quark for what he is.
Exactly. And he's trying to learn and accept Vulcans, because apparently most of his experiences previously were, not positive ones, because he thinks, some folks were out to get him from Vulcan. And but then he's got my Sakona. Yeah. So okay,
man, we got Quark's in Love and My Sakona, man. We got new hit singles.
Yeah. We're now introduced to the Maquis, and this ragtag group of people living on the on the frontier there, on the edge of everything, and we find out the leader is our friend Calvin Hudson, and a man who is so cool he has his own theme music.
Hey, Jack. All right. You got this stuff?
Yeah. All cleaned and oiled.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
It's true. And by the way, man, if you don't know Bernie Casey and I'm going to get you, sucker, or lesser extent in what was the other
Revenge
one?
of the Nerds? He was the head of the Tri-Lams.
Yeah, I'm going to get you, sucker, though.
That was
so
it's
freaking
classic.
good. And I got to say something about here. Beyond discussing Gallimites and their transparent skulls, we're talking about performance here. I've read some stuff that's been kind of not kind to Bernie about his performance as Cal, calling him wooden. I don't buy it. I thought the scene with him and Cisco in Cisco's ready room was wonderful. And when he looked at Cisco, he says about Dax being a woman now and being very attractive. He's like, he's basically saying, are you hitting that?
You hitting that?
He's like, no. What I loved about it though, that could be you and me. And I don't mean about are you hitting that? I just mean the easiness, the way they settled in with each other.
Yeah, well, and the only reason, Bernie wasn't a Trek guy. He was this genre was not really his bag. But he specifically took this role because he wanted to act with Avery. He liked him in his previous work, and he wanted to act with him.
That's the reason he took it. And you have to know that he's saying to Avery when the cameras aren't rolling, dude, what's with the hair? You need to ditch that and get the beard so you can go be your best self and get your theme music going.
Right.
And that's really I'm reading the 50-Year Mission volumes 1 and 2. 1,600 pages of Star Trek history, and it's an oral history. And it's funny. I feel good because the first season you and I talked about it, and we've talked about it in this season too, where I kept saying, God, shave the man's head and let him grow his goat so he can be like Hawk from A Man Called Hawk, and let him be that guy. You will unleash the power, because there's been a lot of criticism also in the first season or two about Brooks's performance being wooden and strange and constrained, and that's something else I'll talk about down the road. But because I happen to think that he should have started with the hair, it's just they took too long. It took like almost 3 years before he could lose that and get kind of unleash the power, and also make him a damn captain.
Right.
I mean,
I get that they didn't want him to be quite as threatening.
More ensemble
at first.
Yeah.
Because his character was also a man who experienced loss, a single father. I think they wanted that softer, maybe a little less threatening side, and then he gets pulled into the conflict as opposed to coming in guns a-blazing.
Right. And I think they did. I just think that their timing was off, and we'll see this soon. We're going to see a great change in the energy of the show. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick break. We got some words from our sponsors, and we have some sponsors now. And folks, it's a necessary evil. It helps pay the bills. It's not nearly as much money as you might think it is, and it does not mean you cannot give us some money in the tip jar on PayPal, because I'm talking I'll just tell them straight up. It would take us to get like 100,000 downloads to pay for 1 month's downloads of an episode with an ad tacked onto it to pay for 1 month of hosting. Okay, so please don't think because we have McDonald's or Spider Vein
Duncan
or whatever. Duncan. Do you have the Spider Vein one? When we come back, we're going to listen to this wonderful audio sent from Chris. So we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Chris, and I'd like to give you my favorite episodes of DS9. First is Crossfire. I really loved seeing the interpersonal relationships there. I thought Renee Auberjonois and Nana Visitor gave great performances. Renee in particular just showed a full range of emotion there. And I also liked seeing Quark and Odo, and even Odo and Worf interact. I thought the writing made it feel very natural. And then Return to Grace. I always found Kira and Ducat's relationship to be interesting, and I thought this was just a really good episode that showed that in more detail. And I learned the term Q-ship from that episode. And as a gay woman, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Rejoined. But I'll just say that just the sex of the new host was never an issue, and I really like that. So that's it. My 2 cents. Love you guys. Bye.
I have nothing to say other than I totally agree with Chris. I love these episodes, all 3 of them. What about you, man?
I 100% concur. Yeah, it was some great stuff there.
Oh man, We don't want to talk too much about them because they're in the future of what we're going to cover. I don't want to give too much away. It's not a spoiler alert thing. It's
let's tip or look ahead to say, this is another one. If Chris is available and would be interested, we would love to have a little interview and get some additional voices other than yours and mine.
Absolutely.
And so that would be into it was season 4.
I think so. Yeah. And rejoin. Gosh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it, but it's ahead. But if we're still doing it, Chris, we're going to get in touch with you and see if you're interested in talking about it. At least one of the 3. We don't have to do all 3, but we appreciate you doing that. And by the way, if you want to do that, what do they got to do, Brian?
It's so simple. Just record an MP3. So use your voice recorder on your phone, on your computer, and then just attach it to an email and send that. The easiest is to our Gmail address, which is audioumox@gmail.com. So simple. And then, we'll take a listen. We'd love to air it if you're comfortable with that.
If you send it to us, consider it's ours. We're gonna use it. I don't mean it in an ugly way. I'm just saying, just don't send it to us if you don't want us to air it. If you just want to say something to us, don't do it audio wise. Just type it, But if you send us an audio, we always need content, so we're happy to have it, and especially when it's so well thought out and well said as you did, Chris. And I think we had another guy do it recently too, but we're not going to use the name again because every time I use his name, some weird thing happens.
So, and we may talk in a little more detail about some of Chris's points next week. I think we're running short on Maquis time right now, but thanks again, Chris. This is great stuff.
Big ups to Chris.
Yeah. So back to the Maquis, and so I forgot to mention, of course, that the Maquis is an homage to the French Resistance from World War II. So it's that's how that group felt, as if they were resisting this superior hostile force, and they were really working underground to try and sabotage. So it's
or sabotage, as William Shatner would say.
So it's one what's the old line? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Well, George Washington, right? He's a terrorist to the Brits, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what we have here, and then so we find that Cal Hudson, who's taken off his uniform, which really offends Ben, and I love this because he's there. He's like, "Hey Ben, glad you could make it," and Ben's figuring it out. And he's like, "Oh crap!" I mean, that'd be like me finding out you had betrayed everything, or me, I'd betrayed everything to you. I mean, can you imagine? Just
it would be tough to swallow.
I mean, you go talking about, or you hitting that to. By the way, I work for the Russians. I mean that's not cool.
Yeah, that would cause some discomfort,
some consternation
as a friend, and that happens throughout the episode. They have 2 to 3 major conflicts there, where the first was him turning in his uniform and them walking away. A second, them rescuing Ducat and sending someone back to him to say, give him the business, and then the last one, of course, was the fight scene where they've lets him escape, which makes Ducat not so happy, but he gave him that one last chance, and you see Cal literally destroying that uniform. He's that kind of done with Starfleet.
He was making it very clear. This is it.
Right.
No,
you're either in or out. So now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Ducat. So you've got Ducat, who comes on the ship, sneaks into Ben's room, and of course, Cisco's is scared that he's kidnapped his son, and so he's calling all around. It's like, where's Jake? What's going on? And then from there, they start building something of a relationship, a professional relationship at least, given a common goal.
Right.
Both use their skill set. I think there's some frustration, technique and tactic wise, for both of them. But when it all comes to a head, Ben's there, saves Ducat because that's not going to happen if the Cardassian, if what was his name, Leggett chicken parm.
He looks, John Shuck plays him, and he looks like he's eating a lot of chicken parm. But that's funny because there's a comment from Ira Bear, the showrunner, about him. He says he was played by John Shuck. Now, John Shuck, really quick, was the Klingon ambassador in Star Trek 6 and in Star Trek 4.